Hey y'all, welcome back to Movement Link. So I just want to talk a little bit about when you're coaching a class and you're trying to give the context of what RX really is, how you can give the context in a way that really helps people scale the workout appropriately for their level. Because what we know is if we say 5 rounds, usually people say for time. We like to say for intensity and technique, meaning that if it's knees buckle, if press goes with the elbows out, if weird things happen, it's not a thruster and we want that technique high. Anyway, if we don't give enough context behind what RX is we see so many people not know how to scale correctly. And then the generic response out there on the internet is that's up to the coach. The coach should be talking to everyone individually. It's like, absolutely. But the coach should also have some strategies that they can use to tell the group to make it easier for people to make their own decisions, and then they can help them along with those decisions along the way. So here's how I do it. So I look at a few things. First thing, if it's a barbell exercise, what I'm looking at is I like to put everything in terms of percentage. And this isn't going to be spot on because how many people know their thruster max? Very few. But what the percentage does is it helps give people a real quick gauge on light, medium, heavy, stuff like that. So 135, 95, just think best in the world. What is their thruster going to be? And this is going to be about 50% of this. Now, this is important because if you're programming also, then you really need to have an idea of where this is. Because if you don't, you might overreach and give people the wrong volume. So for my programming, I follow kind of the gold standard that so many elite level powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters use, which is Pullups table. I've expanded Pullups table down. Pullups table starts at 55% and goes higher. I've extended it down into the CrossFit Metcon ranges, and Metcons sometimes happen there, but typically they're happening between the like 20 to 50% range, hitting the 35 to 50% range most of the time. And it's good to know what is realistic for those types of rep schemes. So what I know is about 50% of a max with a thruster, about 50 reps is about the top end of what we want to be doing there. So now I can look at this workout and I can say, holy cow, this is going to be a lot for most people. This is going to be a lot. So if we've got somebody that this isn't 50% and they're so focused on RX, what I now know is that if this person should be using 115, they're going 135. That means they're probably going to be up in this 60, 65% range. And now what we know from Pullups table is that kind of max reps we want to do there is like 20 to 25 reps. There's 50 in this workout. So now that we know, possibly we'll give it the benefit of the doubt and we'll say 30 reps is their max. Now we know we have 20 reps too many. We have 20 reps that no longer improve their fitness anymore. We have 20 reps that only work to elongate their fatigue, meaning they're going to be sore and their central nervous system is going to be crushed a little bit. So all we're doing is 20 of those reps don't work to make them fitter. They only work to make the next days of training harder, which is going to make you less fitter in the long run. So knowing these things and knowing how to relate them back as a coach is super important, but also just trying to give people how to scale this one. So now that we know that like, oh my goodness, this is heavy and that's a lot of reps, it's very important that people scale. Now I have a way and I can be passionate about talking to my people that are very close to RX and just want to be there, but they're not quite there, and get them and give them a perspective on why it's important for them to scale this one down. If they want to go RX weights, then we know we can shift this down and maybe we go 6 reps. And now they can go heavier. They're going to go they're going to go up to that like 60% for themselves. They can go heavier, but now we know that this needs to be 6 thrusters. So they can work that RX weight to get stronger, what they want anyway, but I can give them a rep scheme that's appropriate. So even if you don't know your thruster max, I can say something like Thrusters usually about what your push press is, but even without that, I can say 50%, we know that's kind of medium. So what I like to do there is I like to give even more context. I like to tell people what that feels like when you're doing your warm-up sets. I usually recommend like 3 rounds of 3 reps. So if that's going to be my recommendation, I put it into perspective of what those 3 reps should feel like. And it's like your 3 reps should feel really heavy, but something that you can cycle. Like you're not worried about cycling 3 reps, but they should be heavy enough where you're like, oof, this is gonna get tough. So that's what 3 reps at 50% feels like. If you're struggling on one of those 3 reps, that's too heavy. And if it's a complete joke, that's too light. So that's how I like to set that up. Then with the pull-ups, we have kind of the same thing. It's like we kind of know our min and max number of pull-ups that makes sense for a workout. This is 100 pull-ups, so this is pretty much on the high range again. So this is just a high range workout. But we also know that if you're elite, you've got 50 to 100 pull-ups in a row that you can do. So that means the total is sitting there kind of around what that max number is. So 20 is a very reasonable number for those people. So what I like to do is I like to tell people, and I like to pick a number, and usually for body weight exercises that are simple like pull-ups, push-ups, the number is usually like 25 or 30. So then what I like to say is, okay, so this 20 pull-up number is for the people whose max set is 30 or more. If your max set is not 30 or more, then I like to give them maybe a percentage. So 30 or more, this is gonna be 66%. If 20 around, if you can do 30, then 20 is 66% of your max. So then for the people scaling, say you can only do 20 pull-ups as a max set, 66%, oh, now I gotta do some math, about 13. So now we're gonna change this number maybe down to 12 or 13 per round for those people who have a max set of 20. But now I'm giving them something to work off of. And you don't have to know your max. It's like you can kind of take a guess at it. If you think your max set is 10, then we're gonna do like 6 or 7 a round. And usually when it gets lower like that, it's okay to go a little bit above these percentage marks. So maybe that's when we're gonna say 8 is gonna be the number. But now I've gotten them something. Then it's like, I can even give them like a lower bound. If your max set isn't at least 10, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do jumping pull-ups. We're gonna do a jumping pull-up with a slow negative. We're gonna get bands out. We're gonna do ring rows. Or here's why you would do this or why you would do this, and give them those options. Then what I like to also do, same thing. Warm up, 3 rounds, 3 reps. So if you truly can do 30 pull-ups, then what 3 should feel like is very easy, but not a complete joke, and not hard in any way. So if 3 pull-ups is hard in any way, you can't do 30. But then that also gives the context for people who don't know their maxes, but also for the people scaling. If you're doing ring rows, you can put your feet at a bunch of different places to change your body angle. There's a lot of different band choices. So as those people who don't know their maxes or they're scaling and they're not quite sure how to scale, you can give them a little bit more insight by telling them what should 3 feel like or what should 5 feel like, whatever. That way, as they're warming up, they can try and be like, okay, I should add another band, or I could take away a band, or I should shift my feet this way. So then the scaling people know how to do it. So all of these things are things I think about before I coach the class. That way, in my head, I know what the percentage is gonna be. I know kind of what my scaling recommendation is for the pull-ups. And what I know is that if you've got only 20 pull-ups as a max set and you're gonna try and do 5 rounds of 20, I know just like we talked about being too fatigued after the thrusters, I know that's just too many. And it's probably about 20 to 40 too many reps that are just going to increase fatigue with no actual training stimulus benefit, and it's just going to mess up your next days of training and be kind of a net negative. Whereas if we get that number down to that 13 range, now I can be certain that we're hitting a stimulus that's going to give you gains without stepping on your next workouts over the next few days. So just as a coach, be prepared to be able to describe what these weights are. That way you can, and describe why it's important that those people who want to be RX but aren't quite there yet, why it's important that they scale, and they don't have to scale the weight, but they need to scale the reps, because that's going to be the way that gets them to be RX the fastest. It's good to give those people who don't know an idea of, well, this is what 3 reps of this should feel like, or 3 reps of this should feel like. It's just good to be able to give people context, because when you just tell them we've got 5 rounds, 10 thrusters at this weight, 20 pull-ups, you scale pull-ups with these options, then you've got people just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I want to be, they just don't have the context to make the decisions they want to make. And then usually that means that coach doesn't have the information that they need to go give everybody the one-on-one guidance and coaching they need to actually figure it out. So if you understand it yourself, then you'll be able to real quickly tell the group how to do it, and then when you're working with people one-on-one, you can reinforce that and help them choose appropriate scaling and weights and things as we go. Hope that helps. Talk to y'all soon.